Hello everyone, welcome back to our Friday Night Spiritual Insights with Michael Mirdad. This is a program where we discuss all kinds of various topics basically related to spirituality and psychology, self-help as well. So we do something different every week. We're going to go into the topic today, which you could say, I want to talk about light and science. Not because I'm trying to push the topic of science per se, but I want to talk about light and maybe light in the light of science, okay, or science in the light of light. But I want to talk about these kinds of concepts or themes. You know, in a nutshell, we have science that's saying nothing can move faster than the speed of light, which is a logical comment, conclusion, theorem, and so on. But in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. I'm just paraphrasing slightly here. The Word of God is the creation of God's children, all of us. And even though we might not act like children of light, we are children of God. So when in the Bible it says, let there be light, that was not the description of the sun being created. If you go and look at Genesis, you're going to find that's not the description of the sun. Let there be light meant what then? It's when God said, let there be light, meaning within myself and within my kingdom consciousness, I am creating my children, my creation. We are the creation of God. We're the children of God. We're the light of God. So when in Gospel of John, it tells us in the beginning was the Word was God. That's us. We are the Word of God. We are the creation of God. God is love and bliss. The Father aspect of God, you could say, is bliss, and the Mother aspect of God, you could say, is love. And I understand that some people don't believe in these kinds of things and deeper spiritual concepts. Then, you can go to a program that makes sense to you, that works for you. But this, for people that are open to deeper spiritual concepts, applicable spiritual concepts, we wrap our mind around the idea that this concept, this God, bliss of God said, I so love that I make more love. It's what creation does. It creates. And if I'm love, I create more of myself. Love. God didn't actually create beings and toss them onto a planet spiraling out in the universe somewhere. So we are the light of God. There's the love of God, the bliss of God. There's the light of God. That's the Trinity in terms of like divine feeling terminology. We're the light of God. And so nothing can move faster than the speed of light means what? It means there's a limit to how fast something, operative word thing, can travel. But light is not a thing, it's a person, it's a being. It's you and me. So nothing can move faster than the speed of light. Well, here's my answer to science on that one. And I would love for people of science to look into this concept more, but they can't. Some of them can't, because some do not believe, most do not believe, many do not believe in the spiritual or God aspect of the universe. So they're thinking in linear terms, which makes you have a linear answer to your linear concepts, questions. So nothing can travel as fast as the speed of light, faster than the speed of light. Unless it's light itself, because light itself is all that is. Part of God, it's all that is. So even in this universe, the light of God, which is what we are spiritually, I know we don't seem like it right now. So humans might look like they walk a certain pace, run a certain pace, and eventually somehow, let's say they could tap into the concept of travel, space travel. So all of a sudden, they're traveling the speed of light. That's the fastest you can go. Unless you are the light that you're traveling. Unless you're the consciousness itself. Because then you don't go from one place to another. You are all those places. You know, science talks about time and space. There's a point where it will evolve more into understanding what's called time-space. Not time and space. Time-space. I'm sure there's something, you can Google to go into that more, but it may be, not of interest. And I'm not saying it should be an interest. I'm saying, spiritually speaking, you go from time and space to time-space. But then there's a point where you move beyond time and time-space as well. And all of a sudden it's a feeling, not a thing. It's not a theorem, a theory. It's a consciousness. And that's why science can't reach those conclusions. Science, try it as it may, even with the best intentions, can forever look for the origins of man in a monkey. And they'll forever be stuck with the missing link. And they say, it doesn't matter. We don't need the missing link. Our logical progression is obvious enough to where we're convinced this is the way it is. Even though they got that from a guy named Darwin, and Darwin himself said, I believe I was mistaken. And he was. Darwin himself says, I had a choice. I could basically propose spiritual creation. And I don't mean the one that says God created the universe in a few days and the universe is only a few days old. I don't mean, that's really archaic religion. That's not spirituality. I'm talking about Darwin was saying there's something else, there's something more, and there's behind spiritual, or something spiritual behind evolution. And he said I could either throw that out there, or I could throw out to the world a science idea, scientific idea. And he said, and I had to go with that one because otherwise I was going to be just pummeled, as a reputation. It would be pummeled, So he just decided to go the weaker route, and then later claimed that he felt regret and mistaken for doing that. So something to think about there. So science is saying nothing can travel that fast, and yet unless you are that thing. And light is the name of not just the children of God. I want to make it clear that the term is also, you could call it the light is the creation of God, but another name for the creation of God is the Christ. That's not owned by a religion. It's the consciousness of that which we once were, are, and always will be. That's the name of God's child when it's remembered. Children that do not know who they are, they're named Joe and Sally and Sam and Michael and whomever, because they live in a separated state, so they're given separated identities, and they walk around thinking that this is who they are, this person. Though even the word person comes from persona, which means mask, which means basically false. So we're walking around, who is that person? It's a mask. Every person is a mask because it's a persona. So people are walking around with masks to try to compensate, because when you forget who you are, you're going to need, and I mean need, compulsively need to come up with some identity so that you don't feel like you're walking around with some sort of, multiples of amnesia, and instead you'll just take anything. It's kind of like that. It's like, I'll just take any name as long as I get a name. Look how desperate people were coming to America. The Americans would tell people their new name. What's your name? It's, Giovanni, and with accent and all, and they would say, we're going to call you Gene, they can just change your name. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying they did it to a lot of people, a lot of immigrants. And did the immigrants say, oh, by and large, did they say, no, I'll go home because I'm going to keep my identity? No, people are willing to sell themselves out pretty quickly and easily. Just like when you and I are shamed as kids, it starts to wear on us, and literally then we start to wear it, which is to me tragic, ridiculous, but it is how things happen in this world. So, it's just something to think about. But quantum physics is beginning to say that, that this expanding universe, and this is interesting to me because they're saying the universe, a lot of quantum physicists believe, some vary, but a Big Bang. So originally there's this boom. Now, I know there's other theories as well. The Big Bang theory would be inclusive of other theories. It doesn't have to be one or another, believe it or not. But the Big Bang did take place. It's the moment the children of God thought, let's separate from God, boom, because now you're separating. Thoughts become things. So the Big Bang takes place, and there's this vast division, but science is now saying, they're like, the universe expansion is slowing down. They prove now that the universe expansion is slowing down. Wow, that's okay. Then what? Not a big deal. It slows down. Well, it eventually will stop. Why? Because the explosion that caused this propulsion outwards will fade because there's no more explosion. Why? What's going to stop it? If you and I constantly hate and judge and choose to separate from one another, that'll be the fuel that'll keep it going. The fact that the universe is slowing down, in fact, means there must be something changing in people that is choosing to slow down the idea of separating and come back together. That's a beautiful notion, but it's founded now in science. The universe is slowing down. So to me, that's just beautiful, brilliant. Then what are they saying is going to happen next? It's going to slow down. Eventually, how long will it take? A billion years, maybe? 100 billion? But it's going to slow down, and then what happens next? It's going to contract again. This is the Hindu version of the out-breath and in-breath of God, but that's one version of it, but it's going to contract again. But I understand it spiritually to mean we chose to separate. Now we're choosing love and forgiveness. We chose to eat from the tree of judgment. Now we're going to eat from the tree of forgiveness. There we go. The universe will contract. Quantum physicists then say when the universe recontracts, when it contracts on itself, it will cease to be, and they say in the theorems, it'll cease to be and be as though it never was. Meaning this will all be seen as having been simply a dream. Whether it seemed like a bad dream, nightmare, or whether it was a good dream. That's the theories that come from quantum physicists and quantum physics. And it's exactly matching spiritual truth. I don't know why more people aren't seeing it, why more people aren't proposing that, spreading that news, but that's where it's at. Without another explosion to propel, it's just going to contract, pause, cease to be, and then be as though it never was. So this is A Course in Miracles telling you, one day it's all going to disappear and you're going to realize nothing ever happened. Because it only happened in time, space, or time and space. And once you're past time and space, it won't be. It's an interesting thing because also in science and astrophysicists are saying to us, when you travel through space, time starts to disappear and you become weightless. This is hilarious to me because Earth is a place of gravity, coming from the word grave. Earth is a place of gravity. So your weight is here more, not just your body's weight. Here, the opposite of light is weight, heavy. So on Earth, it's heavier, it's denser, and there's more judgment. But in space, when you tune into something that's away from the weight of the world, you become lighter, but also time starts to already fade. Then they're saying they've already figured out how to sort of age the universe, figure out the age of the universe, track it down and all that. So they're saying, well, when we tune into the history of the universe, laws of physics apply. But they're saying now we can go back to what's, cosmic microwave background, cosmic microwave background radiation. So it's kind of like taking a picture of the stars, and they know how to now see, like in an X-ray, they can see the radiation left from the original Big Bang. So they can date that, and that's how it's almost like doing a cosmic form of testing the age of anything to rocks to whatever else on this planet, bones, so you can test the age. They use radiation, but they test the age of things of this world, carbon dating, but they can also do that with the universe. So long story short, they're now saying when we look to the fraction of a fraction of a fraction, time, multiplied, to the point where the universe first exploded, because they can date it based on this radiation, cosmic radiation, when they track that down, they're discovering that the laws of physics no longer apply. And that's just, oh my God, that's just beautiful. That's just brilliant. This cosmic microwave, background radiation. And they can date it and they go, well, we're seeing that, but through their means, that physics applies. But when they track everything back to the beginning of time, the Big Bang, as they can with the radiation, standard physics, they don't apply. Why? Because you're moving beyond not only the weight of the world, the weight of the universe, the density of the universe, but time and time-space. And everything starts to change because you're going back to before the beginning of time and space. Before the beginning of dimensionality at all. Not just third dimension, dimensionality at all. So you start to go, God, it's almost like sky's the limit. That's exactly right. Sky's the limit. In the real sense, sky meaning the truth, the truth of love, the truth of God, the truth of who we are is the only limit, and it's unlimited. So there is no limit. But sky's the limit based on third dimensional thinking, meaning the vastness. There is no limit. There's, wow, like what people are going to come to understand eventually is that there is God, there is a God, we are part of God, the creation of God, but yet part of God, and we are the light of the world. Jesus himself said, I am the light of the world. And he meant that. He is, because he remembered he's Christ. But then he tells us, and all the things I've done, you shall do and more. One of them would include, he didn't say some of the things, all the things. And one of them would be that I know that I am that I am. I know that I am the light of the world. And therefore, so too are you. The second coming of Christ is the coming of light, but it's the remembrance. The first coming of Christ wasn't the first coming of Jesus. That is the first embodiment of the Christ, sure. But the first creation of Christ, the first coming of Christ was, let there be light. Jesus then manifests that in a birth form, human form. But the second coming of Christ is not just the return of that person, it's the return of us, the children of God that are the light of the world, the light of the universe, the light of God's eye, coming back to remembrance. And so, oh my gosh, just sometimes I just think about that God itself, how much joy God itself would feel to know that its children have returned to love. They're not pouncing on each other, beating up each other. They're not stealing from each other. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet, and so on and so on. They're not doing that anymore because they found out who they are. See, a law passed in the world isn't going to fix the world. You can't fix problems with the same demented mind that created them. Something else has to happen. Oh, we need certain people in office. No. Certain programs in your computer. No. Certain discoveries in science and medical science and so on. No. Political science. No. It's the children of God who have forgotten who they are, and then you could say in a nutshell, misbehaved, let's call it. It's not just behavior, it's misthinking. As they say in 12 steps, it's not a drinking problem, it's a thinking problem. So our decision to forget who we are is what has undermined our lives, our decisions, our behaviors, and it has turned things obviously for the worse. So as I'm going to start, wrapping up, I'm just wanting to say that this even the idea of Einstein and relativity says that as you move through space, I just think Einstein was spiritual. He wasn't, even though he's thought to be like the guy, he's like the poster child for science. He was spiritual, and that's how he says, imagination to get his ideas more than he did through calculated thinking. So it shows that a scientist can be a mystic, and a mystic can be a scientist. At one time in history, they weren't separated. But the calculating, ego-based part of human thinking will always split things apart. So it split astronomy from astrology. It split, medical science from healing, and so on and so on. It's just kind of a bummer, but that's the way it went. So this theory of relativity, the less time exists. The more you move through space, the less time exists. the less time, the less distance. It means the less limitation. The more you become one with all, the less the rules of the universe and physics actually apply to you. But somebody's making money telling you, if you don't eat this, then it's bad for you. If you eat this, it's right for you. And we happen to be selling plenty of this. So if you don't follow their rules, there's something wrong with you. You can't be different. You can't say, well, if I don't believe that, it might not be true for me. Oh no, there must be something wrong with you. You're demented. And that's how they treat people who think outside the box. And it's because of fear. So the times we're living in are very challenging for light workers because we're thinking outside the box. And we use words like love, forgiveness, and people are like, no, you must be this, and you have to hate. One race has to hate another. One tradition has to hate another. One religion has to hate another. Who's telling you this? These are humans, not God. And light workers choose to follow the love, the light, the truth of God. And light workers it's a term supposedly that I coined. I think I did. People have told me that and have tracked it down. But I started using that in the early 80s because I always said, well, if God is light, and we're light, we're working at remembering our light, and we're working on anchoring the light of God in the world, so we're light workers. So it was kind of just a phrase, a word, a title, whatever, that makes sense to me. Now it's kind of been used by many properly and used by some people improperly. Because when they start using the word light worker as though it's autonomous without God, then they miss the point. Because I use the word light worker, usually I capitalize it when I type the word, because it means workers for God, with God, co-creators with God. It was never meant to be some sort of special club we're spiritual without God, we're just wonderful beings. That's just very narcissistic and all that. So I don't subscribe to that, and I don't have to because I made up the word myself, so I can do what I want, right? Hope you understand that. But keep God in the picture, man. If you're going to talk about light worker, keep God in the picture. But the world's telling you got to do this, you got to hate, you got to judge. Guys, don't take that too seriously. They're saying that because they're caught up in this world. To be in the world and not of the world is the ticket. So those who are caught up in this world and are of this world, thinking this world is their answer, fixing this world the way they think it should be fixed is the answer, those are all symptoms of someone who is bound by gravity. And again, the word grave. They're already dead. They're talking judgment, hate, fixing things by three-dimensional means. They're already in the grave. So we're told by many of masters, let the dead bury the dead. Meaning, don't fuss about it. Don't get caught up in other people's death thinking. Think life. Think love. And practice all you can to forgive people. It's very tricky because it's a world of hate, making statements. It's politically incorrect to be loving, but this is our destiny. That's all I can say. So I would just close by saying, be, there's a saying Jesus used, be as wise as serpents and as gentle as doves. And that's the way of the light worker. So I pray that this has made good sense. I pray that this can work for you and you can apply it. But remember, reach out, network with each other. You can come and join us on Edenshire Live. It's a Zoom program every day where a bunch of other light workers work with each other to kind of talk and learn and grow and share and heal. All right, so join us if you can. Hope to see you all soon. God bless. Bye-bye.